sort of a security issue for him is one that we can't really go into too much. Oh, we've got him, sorry. Happy birthday.
Thank you. This is Truth, not Ruth, actually. I actually didn't hear much of what went on because you need to be close to the mic that's connected to the computer system. But, okay, so I understand we're in the Volksbringer, and to thank the Volksbringer for again for letting us use that space. It's a quite important place here in Berlin. Okay, so let me get my notes and we'll begin. We have about 20 minutes, is that right? We're running a little overtime. No?
Yeah.
So I'll try and cut it to 15 so we have time for questions. Over the last 10 years, Wikileaks has released 10 million documents comprising of 10 million words. And why numbers are not everything, they're a start. That's information that never would have existed in the world had we not released it. It would have been stored away somewhere privately, but it wouldn't have become part of our collective civilizational knowledge. And it corresponds to approximately 3,000 documents a day on average. That's a hell of a lot of work. That's why we don't release every single day. We do things at scale in order to, say, release 100,000 documents at once. But it does pan out to about 3,000 documents per day. Now, why do this at all? I am in a position where I've been detained without charge here in the UK in one form or another, prison, house arrest, the last 4 years in the embassy. As a result of this work, some of our sources, or alleged sources, have suffered terrible consequences in the United States. Actually, not many. We have thousands, and there's only a couple of alleged sources that are facing difficulty, but altogether, being sources and supporters, people have been sentenced to something like 50 years altogether. And the two most significant cases is that of Chelsea Manning in the United States, sentenced to 35 years in prison, purely for communicating with the media. That's the allegation. There's no other allegation against them. The United Nations found that they had been tortured by the public to cruel and inhumane treatment akin to torture. Jeremy Hammond, imprisoned in New York for 10 years. And a number of supporters back in the heat of the kind of first phase of neo-McCarthyist hysteria in the United States in 2010, 2011, went through a legal process as well. Most of them got off without any imprisonment. But, okay, what does it teach you? Well, it teaches you something about the structure of power. Whenever WikiLeaks engages in a release, sure, the information that we reveal about an institution or about a state is interesting. But also the reactions by the institution or the state are extremely revealing. And the reactions by tertiary players, such as particular media groups and their alignment, allied institutions, and so on. I mean, this in some ways harkens back to the old statement of Voltaire that if you want to understand structure of power, you should see who it is that you have difficulty writing about. Well, myself, my staff, and our sources, we believe in some kind of romantic ideal. It's quite a quaint notion. It's quite a cynical notion. It's quite a notion, in fact, that perhaps in some ways doesn't belong to this time. It belongs to an older time, or perhaps a future time, which is that through understanding the world, we can do something sane, we can do something rational. It's not something of coming out of a postmodernist view of extremely bounded rationality, where everything is kind of pointing. But we actually think it's fascinating to understand the world around us, and through this understanding, we can see justice come from it, as we have in many cases, some of which Sarah has pointed out. In fact, you can break down this quest for knowledge and understanding into really the three types of history. And by history, journalists will understand that I don't mean what happened 100 years ago, or not only what happened 100 years ago. I mean history circa now, the history that is unfolding all around us. What are the three types? So type 1 is the history which is subsidized, where there is economic interest in propelling it and promoting it. That of course includes all kinds of advertising and propaganda, but it also includes very basic things, such as how to hammer in particular types of nails, how to build a pump, how to fly an aeroplane. Extremely important information, but one that has an existing industry propelling it forth into the world. Type 2 history. And this is unsubsidized history. History which has lost its economic subsidy. Knowledge which is no longer propelled in the world, but sits there and perhaps slowly decays. That's important to try, in some cases, to provide that knowledge, but generally speaking, it's not kept around because people don't find it interesting enough to keep around. And then there's the type 3 history, and that is the type that Wikileaks is involved in, and that I have been interested in all my adult life. And that is subjugated history. It is the history where there is an active effort to prevent it entering into the world. And this type of history, if we can find it, if we can grab hold of it, if we can pull it in to civilization and our collective memory, this is a type of history that would not have otherwise existed. That's true for nearly every document published. It would not have otherwise existed as something to be discussed by people of different languages and different cultures. A good example of that is, say, the Iraq or Afghan war logs. That's a rich documentation of the history of a war, and in fact the history of two countries, that would not have otherwise been present for the people of those countries or for the other countries that were embroiled in those wars to understand and derive lessons from. So through collecting this type of knowledge, subjugated history, we have built this romantic ideal of a grand rebel library. That's what Wikileaks is. A rebel library, a type of library of Alexandria. I think we probably have more documents than Alexandria, but it is a library that is not like any other library. We have the first moment of what we bring into the world being present, as opposed to copies of other books which might be interesting, but we're in the quest of trying to find original documents that have never been seen before and bringing them into our collective knowledge understanding. Okay, so Sarah has spoken about some of the technical details and a bit about practical history. I want to speak now about some of the things we're doing going forward, the future of Wikileaks. I know I've seen the internet, and I understand that there's enormous expectation in the United States. But some of that expectation will be partly answered, but you should understand that if we're going to make a major publication in relation to the United States at a particular hour, we don't do it at 3 a.m. That's something great. So we have a great many upcoming publications. Now, Wikileaks has grown into a relatively strong position. We're a publishing organization that has no debts, has never had to fire anyone, is entirely funded by our readers, has succeeded in every litigation that it's been involved in. I think that puts us in an enviable position of being completely independent, not being dependent on dodgy foundations or advertisers or state funds or exceedingly wealthy benefactors, which of course always have their own interests. But nonetheless, the material that Wikileaks is going to publish before the end of the year is of a significant moment, such a significant moment in different directions, affecting three powerful organizations in 3 different states, as well as, of course, information previously referred to about the US electoral process, that Wikileaks needs to change in order to survive and thrive through the next few months. Now, why we have been growing and why while we are in a position to, and I expect to be able to build up to about 100 additional journalistic staff over the next 2 years, we are going to need an army. Not an army, of course, engaged in physical hostilities, but we are going to need an army to defend us from the pressure that is already starting to arrive. That pressure is being placed on a number of elements that are close to us. It is being placed in one way or another on the state that has courageously given me asylum. It will not succeed. There will be consequences for it. If necessary, of course, if I am not able to continue, or the Ecuadorian people are unreasonably blamed for Wikileaks publications, I will have to resign as editor, but our publications will continue. So part of the necessary defense of Wikileaks, we have engaged in a new project to recruit people across the world to defend our publications. And we'll give details of that as the weeks go by, but immediately you can start following on Twitter WL Task Force, at WL Task Force, or twitter.com/WL Task Force, and Community WL. Follow those, and we will issue guidelines about how you can promote Wikileaks publications, prevent their censorship, and we will also give, if necessary, effective call to arms if the pressure increases a lot more than it already has, which I expect almost certainly that it will. What else? The funding model of DAS is a very interesting model. FAS is a German newspaper, and it's something that we have been working on for a while. Wikileaks will soon launch a membership system where we will give voting rights in relation to 20% of the discretionary expenditure we have. It's important to keep us independent and keep a sustained and predictable income as opposed to significant income coming from the times of publication, but in the times of between publications where there's extensive litigation, then the funding is more unpredictable, which is a difficult position to be in if you're in the middle of litigation. Okay, on upcoming journalism, because we have so many publications due before the end of the year, we're in both an enviable position and also in a very difficult position of having more than 1 million documents to get through of many different sources. We need to increase our number of press partnerships. We have about 110 different organizations over the years. I think there's about 89 that are active at the moment. I think Sarah might have displayed them before. But we need to increase the number, especially in the United States. So journalists that are interested in taking one angle or another on upcoming publications and getting embargoed access, you do need to be a publication which has significant impact. Write to press@wikileaks.org and tell us what your circulation is and what your medium is and what your subject matter expertise is. We have a book which has just come out, that is the WikiLeaks Files. It's out now in the United Kingdom. It is 40% off this week at Verso. If you just Google Verso WikiLeaks Files or search for it some other way, that's a cool book, and it's available by ebook as well. We have another book coming out later this year. These two books, which I've written here in the embassy, one about Google and one about cypherpunks, how cryptography permits journalists and others to protect themselves from mass surveillance. Look at that. It must be the green. Okay. Now, upcoming publications. We hope to be publishing every week for the next 10 weeks. Now, we have on schedule, and it's a very hard schedule, all the US election-related documents to come out before November 8th. Our upcoming series include significant material on war, on arms, on oil, on Google, on the US election, and on mass surveillance. So journalists who are interested in those subjects, please write to press@wikileaks.org. We will be beginning the first publication in that series this week. I'm not going to specify the hour because, of course, all the press blacks get ready to try and spin in the other direction. Okay, so finally, so we can get on to questions, there's a lot of thank yous. I'm going to avoid 10 years worth of thank yous. Needless to say, an endeavor like WikiLeaks comes about as a result of the efforts of a great many people and institutions, common allies, love of what we're doing, and in some cases, sympathy and the thrill of doing something that's important. So I don't want to give a map of all the important people by thanking them, but that necessarily isn't a suggestion that everyone I'm about to mention is not important. So it's a mixture. First of all, the committed team of brave technicians and journalistic staff that make Wikileaks what it is, which is an organization which has technical understanding at its core. That is our speciality, that is our comparative. Our sources, of course, without which none of this is possible. We will always keep your trust and do the best to get the best impact possible for you. We've shown over the years that we do. Our readers, supporters, and defenders who keep our mission going. A lot of staff and a lot of legal battles cost a lot of money. And it's only through the funding of our readers and supporters that we're able to keep that big ship going. Our increasingly formidable legal team, they're public, so it can be named, including Balthazar Gazon, Barry Pollack, Margaret Kunstler in the United States, Maureen Taylor, Gareth Pearce, Stella Morris, Renata Abilia, Kerry Schenkman, Jennifer Robinson, Julian Burnside, Greg Barnes, and more than 100 other lawyers in different countries, nearly all of whom work pro bono, although they're expenses. Our allies, media partners, and other defenders in hundreds of institutions and countries, especially the Center for Constitutional Rights in the United States, FFDN, Reporters Sans Frontiers, Human Rights Watch, the ACLU, and the Freedom of Press Foundation in the United States. Professor Gavin McFadden, who's in a very difficult way at the moment in terms of his health, Susan Penn, and John Pilger, who should be personally thanked. The people and government of Ecuador and the United Nations, who have courageously respected my human rights despite considerable pressure over the years. The people of Germany, the Holland Foundation, Der Spiegel, the Deutsche Zeitung, the CCC, Angela and Daniel Richter, John Gertz, and there's many others who I can't mention. And last, but perhaps most significantly, those who died fighting in this business. Michael Ratner, Chief Legal Counsel, John Jones, who together with Melinda Taylor presented our UN decision. Aaron Schwartz, Lenny Weinglass, another one of our lawyers, rest in power. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Julian. So we have some time to...
There is new evidence tonight that the FBI and Justice Department agreed to destroy the computers belonging to senior Clinton aides in exchange for their cooperation in the now closed criminal investigation. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge with the latest on that. Good evening, Catherine.
Well, thank you, Brett. Writing to the Attorney General Loretta Lynch, the Republican chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, said the 5 immunity deals include 2 side agreements with Clinton attorneys Cheryl Mills and Heather Samuelson, who oversaw the sorting and destruction of 30,000 Clinton emails deemed personal. Under the Justice Department deal, the FBI got access to their computers, and in return, they were shielded from prosecution for obstructing justice, and the FBI agreed to destroy the laptops after concluding its search. Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte told Fox News, quote, "These side agreements with Mills and Samuelson, coupled with the many unusual aspects of the FBI's investigation, cast serious doubts about whether the decision to not prosecute Hillary Clinton was made impartially or was predetermined by the Justice Department." Last week, FBI Director Comey was pressed on why investigators relied on these agreements to seize evidence rather than the routine method of impaneling a grand jury.
In my experience, you can often do things faster with informal agreements, especially when you're interacting with lawyers. In this particular investigation, the investigative team really wanted to get access to the laptops that were used to sort these emails.
At today's briefing, Fox News asked if the State Department condoned the destruction of the laptops, given the ongoing Freedom of Information Act lawsuits for Clinton's emails.
I can't speak to immunity agreements, and I certainly can't speak to the FBI's investigation. As we've said before, our focus is on processing for public release the materials we have received from the FBI.
A Justice Department spokesman said officials are reviewing the letter. The department has 7 days to respond, Brett.
Catherine, we've been hearing a lot about this Wikileaks announcement that they're going to come out with some blockbuster that's going to change this race, but it's been changed now to a video release tomorrow?
Well, that's right. The head of Wikileaks, Julian Assange, canceled a dramatic announcement from the balcony of the Ecuadorian embassy in London, where he's been living for the past 5 years, to avoid extradition to Sweden, where he faces sex charges. In a tweet posted today, WikiLeaks said the presentation was moved to Berlin and will now be a live video link after developing specific information about Assange's safety. A former senior U.S. cybersecurity official said the decision may be calculated.
Could it be because he wants more attention tomorrow with the big WikiLeaks anniversary? Or could it be that his primary source of material has told him they would prefer to wait?
WikiLeaks is billing the announcement as the past, present, and future of the group on its 10th year anniversary and not an October surprise, Brett.
And of course, we will have all the details of that. Catherine, thank you.
You're welcome.